So, time for another wee walk with Steve. This time we're up in the Harbour car park in Port Stewart on the Harbour Rocks. Over there is in the showing, which we looked at last night. Another useful sign. Risk of death or serious injury. It's a nice quiet night tonight. No big waves. Strangely nobody out fishing either. There's Port Stewart in all its glory. So, the harbour down there, the scene. Many it's an afternoon fishing. My friends and I used to come down on our push bikes with our rods tucked along the bar, and we would fish in the harbour. There's a little boat going out. And just over there, by that gate, there's a hole in the rock called the spout. And when it's wavy, which it usually is, it has to be said, this part of the north coast, the waves will come up, get funneled up into the spout, and there'll be a big whoosh of water. And my father used to come here with his parents and stay in one of the hotels. And on a wavy day, he could be found telling people to stand over it to see what happened. It's surprising my father actually got to survive long enough to have me. He has a very similar sense of humour to myself. And let's go down the steps here. I used to have a girlfriend, one of my first girlfriends, a lassie by the name of Martine, who lived in that house there. It didn't last long, it has to be said. But then again, I was 14, which isn't really the age to be having serious relationships. Down this wee alleyway, I'll take us down into the harbour and the prom, which, for anybody growing up in the Triangle area when you were a teenager, was the place to both see and be seen. All the boys who had cars or were able to borrow their parents' car would come and drive up and down the prom on a Sunday, and all the girls would line the prom to see who was in the nicest car. I'm not saying that the women around here were shallow, but you had to be careful. That's the harbour. We used to fish over at the stairs over there. It's quite deep on the mouth of the harbour, and we used to get a lot of cool fish and flatties coming in, particularly after a big storm. Oh, can go through that way. And this is the prom. Promenade. Running from the harbour over to underneath the castle. And as you can see, there's an upper and a lower promenade. You could walk up one and then come back down the other. Start the process again. Check out the talent that was on offer. If Bill and Coots are watching, the Ice House is back in business. Where we had that evening with the Northwest 200 with the what became known as the pear incident. And I'm going to walk along the bottom. Ooh. There we go. Useful map of Fort Stewart for those that might get lost. You may well see a lot of ice creams. There are 4 or 5 ice cream shops along the prom here, the most famous being Morelli's, where in Northern Ireland terms you could get a poke. My British colleagues, my American colleagues find it most amusing that we call an ice cream a poke. You get 2 wee ladies from Belfast coming down, standing outside Morelli's going, "Here, Mavis, do you want a poke?" For some reason, a lot of people find that quite amusing. Now we're coming along to Smiley Rock, and the rumours that I was ever involved in painting a big acid smiley on this rock are grossly exaggerated. I would never do such a thing. And somebody added ears to it one year, and it made it look like a teddy bear. It's long gone now. This is a bit of a pity. I just thought it looked quite nice. I'm a horrible vandal. Ooh, were I to do that, which I'm not saying whether I did or I didn't. Needless to say, there are loads of rock pools along here, which were investigated many times. Little prawns and crabs and small fishes could be acquired using a pair of your mum's old tights, a bit of wire, made into a net. And we're coming up here to the other end of the prom, which is famous even whenever Ruth and I were little, for having paddling poles. And a couple of fairground rides, a number of bumper cars, and starlings get everywhere. 101 wee streams come out into the sea here. of the resorts on the north coast, Portstewart has always been the more genteel of the resorts. Portrush is big and brash. Kiss me quick hats, sticky rock, all the things you would imagine from a holiday resort. Portstewart, slightly more laid back, slightly older. And was reasonably well appointed with this play park. Still has a paddling pool and fountainy things for kids to play in, and climbing frames and all the usual stuff. And oh, somebody's lost their Crocs. Oh, nice ones there too. Well, they wouldn't fit me. Unicorn Crocs. Needless to say, these townhouses along here, when one comes up for sale, you have to ask the price. You really can't afford it. Location, location, location.
Here, give us a smile, Granny.
Oh. And what will we complete without going past the public toilets for Ruth? Whenever Ruth was little, she always liked to investigate the local conveniences to make sure that they were up to mark. And this used to be the dodging track. Long gone now, but you can still see the figure 8 in the tarmac. And so on round to the end of the promenade and the start of the Nuns Walk. The rather impressive building at the top of the cliff is the Dominican convent, and in years gone by there were quite a large population of nuns still in residence. There are very few now, and they're all quite old, but part of their daily devotions would be to come down onto the Nuns Walk and walk over to the Portstewart Strand and back while doing the rosary, and hence the name the Nuns Walk. Seldom now you ever see a nun from the convent. Still a big school, still does well, and they're good places to eat and drink. And this broken down place, you can see a picture of it here underneath. That's what it used to be like. And this used to be called, this little street that ran along here was Bone Row, and then it was a dance hall. What was it called? On the Boulevard of Broken Dreams, but it was something similar. An equally trite. And the big show bands used to play here. And we used to have a mural at this end before they knocked it down of all the big names that played here in the past. Just passing the sewage pumping station. Whoa! Used to be that Portstewart sewage went out to sea down that pipe. Now it collects down here but it's pumped to sewage treatment works outside of town. And now, up the stairs. And this is the official Nuns Walk. When Janet and Ruth and I used to do this when we were little, there was no fence. It was understood that a cliff was not something you wanted to fall down, so we didn't. But now health and safety means we have to have a fence. And of a weekend, once you've found your lady friend on a Sunday afternoon on the prom, you would get an ice cream and come to walk hand in hand up round here, down to Port Mahapple. There are seats, and it has to be said, they are positioned for this time of day. If I sit here, you'll see the view is of the sun setting over Inishowen behind Snacht Mountain. Down there is a good fishing spot. That used to be one of the gateways that the nuns came in and out of. It's all bricked up now, probably to keep the pupils from running amok. We're close enough for the causeway. If you look, you can see it's not columns, but we're getting close to it. We're right at the edge of the causeway, in the sense of the columns, but there are still a few around, but they're few and far between. And as you can see here, there are loads of inlets, and we used to go down there in the summer and fish off the rocks. Can't get down now, but we used to scrabble down grassy slopes like that to get to the bottom. The seaweed from the last couple of storms is starting to ferment, giving it a very iodine-y smell. I feel I should be doing a rosary as I walk around here, but sadly I left my beads behind. And the increase in fermenting seaweed has also increased the number of sandflies, which, while they aren't midges, they don't bite, but they do get in the way and they're awfully annoying. There's one there. Come on, off you go. And as you can see, there are caves underneath me the whole way along here that you can only really get into from the sea. Yeah. Down here, this cleft where there's shoulders in, this is Port Mahapple. Now, and Irish, the word for horse, or more specifically mare, is capel, and Port Mahapple is the horse of the mare, or the port of the mare. Used to be a salmon fishery. The building's long gone. A nice gate up to the Dominican College, Port Stewart, DCP. No relation of SCP, which is a game about monsters. And I would never refer to nuns as monsters. No, never, never. This little inlet is a very safe place to learn to dive. And the local sub-aqua club, in fact 2 of the local sub-aqua clubs will bring beginners here to learn how to both get into the water, out of the water, snorkel and use a rebreather. And there's a bunch of ladies called the menopausal mermaids who come down here early in the morning, 365 days a year, and go for a wee swim. Hiya. This house is relatively new and is owned by the Dempsey family, who own the electrical shop in the middle of Portstewart Prom. Getting their car down here is interesting. Wise words. Ones I've heard Valerie say on many an occasion. Nice flowers. Moving along here, we come to these houses are collectively referred to as Rock Castle, although Rock Castle is a single entity. But I see there's one for sale. These houses go very quickly when they come up for sale. Probably because that's their view from the front room. Oh, there's another one. Portstewart does have a problem with the nearby university. A lot of the houses were bought up for student accommodation at one end, at Keep End. This end, it's much more expensive. Janet and Ruth will remember this house because we used to come here quite often. This belonged to a family called the Scotts, who had a true woven family of many threads. And we would come down here of an afternoon, the parents would sit on the grass looking out, and we would go down, and the girls would pick sea pinks and daisies, and the boys would go rock pulling. Now, that's Rock Castle. It's new. And not the worse for that, but a place where people aspire. Now, you can just make out on the headland over there. There's Mussenden. I can get there close enough. You can just see it on the front headland. That is above the beach that we were walking on yesterday. It'd be lovely to have a house along here and just have the sound of the waves, particularly a day like today, where it's not crashing and bumping and banging. There are days in the winter when if you come along here, particularly in the gales of November and December, where this walkway isn't covered in water, but you're going to get wet from the waves hitting. And this is another little salmon fishery called the Burn. Nets would be strung out from the end of the rock out there. You can still see the mooring point on that rock. And they would go way out into the sea, and the salmon that were coming in following the smell of the river would hit the nets. And then you see the winch there that brought the net in. They were landed here and then taken off another winch up there. And the little cottage behind is where they kept the nets. It's called the Burn, B-E-R-N-E. It's also a great place to go crabbing. There's a rather nice cafe just up there in what used to be, and Ruth will appreciate this, the public toilet. It's a very nice wee cafe now, but it's only open during the day. But it's a nice place to come because we're about halfway between the prom and the strand, which is over there. It's called Lost and Found. And see the blue sign there. That means this walk is part of the Ulster Way. So, given the fact that we as kids walked along here many times, we can claim to have done, if not all, part of the Ulster Way. There's a wee cul-de-sac. The main road is up there, but this little cul-de-sac along here has got some nice older houses and houses that have been updated, but sympathetically.
He's something.
Oh, where's the air it is? The sun bouncing off the sea. The sea pinks have all gone now. They're late spring, early summer, and when they're out, these banks along the side and down in the rocks will be absolutely full of sea pinks. Really the first flash of colour along the coast. You can see here what looks like sand isn't actually sand. It's thousands and thousands of shells. The crabs, the starfish that live out to sea make an easy meal of the shellfish. And when that all the good bits, they drop the shell. And it ends up either over on the beach as sand, and very small particulate are getting washed up along here in banks of broken shells. You can see them as I'm walking along the road, the path. And there are half a dozen wee beaches where many a sandcastle was built in the summers of days gone by. And being a pleasant walk, flat with very little hilly bits, there are loads of seats where the tired wanderer can stop and look at that view. Yeah. Needless to say, it is a spot where people come to fish, and I may or may not have done that in the past, but maybe only once. A slightly bigger beach before the enormity that is Port Church Strand. And I've forgotten that this fence goes the whole way to just above this beach, just in case we were to fall in. This beach does have a name, but I can't remember. I think it's called Collins Beach. Don't quote me on that. But it's proving dangerous. Currents and riptides. Ooh. These flats, you wouldn't get much change out of 1.5 million. Again, and the view from your balcony, uninterrupted, out of what we want to go. Hiya. Now, up this grassy bank here, got a lot of posh. There we have it. That is Port Church Strand.
So I'm just trying to figure out if they were there whenever the same time. He was there when it was 15. So he's not away. And it was pretty long, so I remember.
And again, you're allowed to take your car on the beach. There's a lot of beaches in Northern Ireland. Over there, that is Harry's Shack. That's one of the better wee restaurants we have along the coast. And there are a couple of seats, the one down there is taken. But there's this one, where you can sit and just take in the view. I would come here October, November, December time. Apart from the occasional dog water, the beach will be empty. And I'll have this view to myself. And then in January and February, when you get the occasional clear day, if you can get out of work at 4:30 and down here for 5 o'clock, you'll be shooting through the most amazing sunsets. That's in a showing, and just behind it faintly you can see Malin. Malin heads the furthest north you can get in Ireland. And these piers, you can see the little lighthouse at the end. That's the Bournemouth. That's where the river dam meets the sea. It really is hard to beat this coast. That's one of the reasons why certainly Valerie and I have never moved away. We're drawn back to the coast time after time after time. Port Stewart behind me. Now, rather than have you suffer me the whole way back, I'll take this opportunity to say night night.